Welcome to another inspiring edition of the Brandi Jo Show, your weekly dose of wealth and wisdom for a prosperous financial life. And here's your host, Brandi Jo Newman.
All right, Patti. So mind her money. Minding her money.
Minding her money.
This is crucial to help, especially women, because, you know, in 2023, we're still not to the point where we're on equal footing with our male counterpart spouses when it comes to finances. So I just love that this is your target market. This is what you do. This is your mission and purpose. So
thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And what I like to do, I like to give everyone at least one thing that they can do after they hear the episode that can improve their finances. And we'll get into that a little later, but let's talk about how you arrived at helping this particular group of people, women.
How I personally arrived at it?
Yeah. I mean, how did you get to this point where you're like, okay, these are my people. These are the people that I'm going to help.
Yeah, great question. So the seed was planted when I went through my own divorce, and that was many years ago. And I remember laying on the floor, literally in a fetal position, just sobbing. It was very, very early on, and just overwhelmed with the emotional piece of it. I had an 18-month-old, at the time, so I was just overwhelmed with knowing I had to, raise him essentially on my own, and just, the whole thing, the roller coaster of emotions. And I had this very random, very strange download, and that was, it was like, God was whispering in my ear, "You're going to be okay, because you know how to manage your money, and you'll be fine." And it was a very random thing. I wasn't even thinking about the financial piece. I was just trying to deal with the emotional side of my whole divorce. And it was, again, a very just odd thing to come into my head. And so as I came out of the cloud and out of the, the ugliness of everything, I thought, I'm going to someday turn this around and somehow serve other women who have gone through this and help them, because I've seen this. And then I went on to, I was very busy, obviously, raising my son, which was a priority. And I went on to getting in the mortgage business for many, many years. And then I became a financial advisor. And all those years, I heard many stories about from women, divorced and widowed, who were embarrassed. They were just overwhelmed. They were frustrated. They didn't know investing money. It was intimidating. And I kept hearing the same thing over and over and over again. So that's sort of the pivot that made me, at this late stage in my life, go from being a financial advisor, leaving that role as in a comfortable, salary and benefits and all that, to stepping out on my own, doing financial coaching specifically for that demographic, because I know this is not happening in the financial services world the way it needs to be happening. Yeah. There's a lot of, give me your money, I'll invest it for you, I'll take good care of it, and I'm going to, show you tax strategies, and all that's wonderful. But the behavioral side, the compassionate side, the piece of it that is the life coaching piece of it is just not there.
Yeah.
So that's
the empathy and the guidance, and just the reassurance, but then a little bit of accountability as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
Where are you located? Where am I talking to you?
I am outside of Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm about 30. The town is Valencia. I live up in Santa Clarita Valley.
Yeah. I was just in Rancho Bernardo. It's a fabulous place.
Oh.
Played golf in Temecula.
Okay.
Spent some time in Pasadena as well in February, March.
Okay.
The only thing about California is that it's in California. That's
it's beautiful. Well, the nice thing about California is you can go to the beach and go skiing at the same day if you want to.
and then have lunch at a winery on a mountainside.
Right.
At the midpoint. So let's talk about how someone becomes your client. So So they find you, somehow, some way they find you. And then what are the steps that they take in order to become a client of yours?
Well, we have a discovery call, and I basically, we spend 30 minutes or so. I get to know what their situation is, what their current, where they're at in life, and what their current struggles are, and determine if it's a fit. I go through the program, all of what's encompassed in the program, the different modules, how the coaching works, and then they basically join, and they have access to the program. They have access to all the videos and recordings, and they are then welcomed into the group coaching. And then another package that I offer allows for one-on-one coaching, which I don't do by itself individually. I don't do one-on-one as a sole piece. So it's this group coaching package with the option of working with me privately.
Right. So you have a weekly, well, I'll just assume you have a weekly group coaching call, and then the supplemental or the ancillary services is to get one-on-one, so they can speak. And this is my experience. So they can speak privately about something that's going on.
Yes. Yes. So I have two packages. One is, and it is, you're right, a weekly call where we get together for 90 days. So we have 12 sessions as part of this package where they can, if they want to be put in the hot seat and be coached publicly, that's okay too. If they just want to sit back and be off screen, that's okay too. They can email me questions and I can answer them anonymously and not say who said them. Just here's a question that came in and here's my answer. So they have the option of doing that. We also have a private community that they can, post in. I find that women support women really well, and they lift each other up. So the community is one that I think is going to, as it grows, will be very instrumental in everyone's growth. And then the second package is everything in the first package, but then they have 10 sessions with me one-on-one, and it's over a 6-month period. So we can go deep and go very, very personal with, and that's for somebody who's got a lot of moving parts going on. I've got, a client who's looking at buying a house and they need to clean up credit and they've got to, do many different things. And so that's going to require a little bit deeper dive. So
do you catalog and inventory your data, like your average age of your client or coaching client is X? They've been married for X number of years. They have this amount of debt, these amount of assets. They've got these many kids. They've got a dog, that kind of thing. Do you?
I don't do that on the coaching side. And mind you, I just left my firm in April. So the coaching piece of this, the Minding Her Money coaching program, is relatively new. But I can tell you from 20 years in the combined 20 years working in the mortgage business and as a financial advisor, I was speaking with many, many women, but I would say just off of just a feeling of conversations, the majority of women were over 50 that were going through a divorce. In fact, another episode I did recently was about gray divorce and the percentages of people who are going divorce, after age 55. It's crazy. But they're over 50. They typically, they were in the marriage, the husbands typically did the finances, and they took care of the money. And so there was a lot of just not knowing where things were, not knowing even where statements were, what they had where. There was not much conversation because they just knew the husband was taking care of it and it was no big deal. I mean, that's probably the bulk of what I remember as far as that. But I don't track that per se.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm sure that we can find it. And you mentioned gray divorce. I'm on, and I do. So I love data. I love knowing exactly who is listening to me, who is interacting with me, who is engaging with the content that I put out. And then I know exactly where these people are coming from. And mine is mostly male, and not mostly, I would say 99% male. I've handled a few divorces on the husband's side that the wife had no clue the
Yeah.
assets that they had.
Yeah.
None. And I've been involved up to a point with a couple of contentious divorces where they're trying to hide the money from the wife. And I'm like, you know what, dude, I'm not going to be a part of this
Yeah.
because it's just not right.
Right.
And then legal wise, they don't want to go to trial. And I said, this is the reason that you don't want to go to trial, because everything in trial will be revealed. And I'm like, look, just make sure that she gets not access to the assets, but my positioning was always make sure she never runs out of money, ever. And so what we would do, we would re-coordinate assets, and we would take one asset and turn it into basically a lifetime income stream for her. And that way, she would get a check every month, and then it was totally up to her what she did with that money, but she was not going to get a big chunk at the beginning of her new life, because my position was always, if number one, if you die, she's still going to get a stream of money. If you get divorced, she still should get the stream of money, because you didn't have a prenup. You didn't explain things to her. And not that I was managing all the money. I was kind of I was the one that was always willing to say what everybody, really wanted to say. So when you're in a room, when you're in a conference room with a couple of attorneys and a high powered, alpha male that's, worth millions and millions of dollars, I'm, and I can just call bullshit whenever I see it.
Yeah.
That's just, just don't drag it out. Don't try and make a point. Give her what she deserves, because she was here while you were building this, and there's a value there. Do you find that is this most of your coaching clients, or is it after divorce, or is it during, or is it at the beginning of the divorce process?
I've had a little of each. I've had women who are contemplating divorce and know that they're behind the 8 ball when it comes to money, and they want to have a better handle and understanding of it before they step into it. And I've had some who are in the middle of a very, emotional, intense divorce, and they just don't even know where to start. Yeah. I would say the bulk of those that reach out to me are post-divorce, where okay, now I've got this. Now what do I do? I don't know I don't know where to go with this. And a lot of times, I'll pivot for 1 minute. And this is not a blanket statement, but many times financial planning firms have a minimum for those that manage assets under management. There's a minimum portfolio size before they will even take the client on. Yeah. So for those, individuals who don't have that minimum, they can't get help from a financial advisor per se. They can't have their assets managed. They don't have that guidance. And it's those people, like I was the one primarily in my firm who took the incoming calls, and I would have a lot of conversations with these women, and we had to basically turn them away, which I felt horrible about. Yeah. So I would guide them, having kind of in a direction like, okay, well, here's what you want to do. And I couldn't tell them exactly how to invest their money. I wasn't their advisor. In my role now as a coach, I do not do advising. I don't tell them, okay, 20% of your portfolio needs to go in ABC fund and 20% needs to go in this fund. And I got to be really careful about that. If the gal has a more complex situation, I then say, do you want to talk to a planner? And here's why you might want to consider a planner. And then I can refer them to one. But to the point of, those who don't have the minimums, post-divorce, we all know that, things are split in half, and there's a lot of financial, challenges after that. If it's, not a huge portfolio, they're the ones who often need the most help, because they're not big enough for a financial advisor, yet they have substantial assets and they need to know what to do with it. And they don't understand even what a mutual fund is, or what a ETF is, or what a Roth is versus a regular IRA, and some of those fundamental things, which is part of what I teach. I mean, that's one of the 9 modules that I teach, is the investing side of things. Actually, there's 2 modules that talk about investing, but It's so important for ladies to get a holistic understanding of their finances, not just where to put their money and invest it. It's like, okay, how do I make this last? I mean, like you said, how do I make sure I don't run out of money? I mean, that's the biggest fear, right? I don't want to be living on my kid's couch.
Yeah. Or having to work and not enjoy it. You know, you want to work. I enjoy working, but I also enjoy what I do for work, for my income.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's basically just planning. And, you know, you mentioned that the minimums with some of these major firms is, I just think it's not right, because it's like, why are the firms not sharing information? And why do people even work with those large firms? It's like, you're just a number to them. No one really gets to sit down with anybody and empathize with them and try to understand like where they are emotionally, you know, and what behaviors, you know, do they have about money? What relationship do they have with money? The biggest thing is that what I see with divorcees is the cash flow question. They don't know, you know, they're working, they have a career, they have a business or whatever. They don't know how much they're paying in taxes.
Yeah.
They, you know, I want to know where every single solitary penny goes. Some people don't. Some people want to keep it conceptual, that, you know, and some people that I work with, I'm a big pay yourself first.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, you know, some people that come to me, they're like, well, I have this left over. It's like, nope, you're going to have that left over plus what you're going to put into the system, put into your plan at the beginning.
Yeah.
And there is a little bit of sacrifice, and I've been beating the table really for the last year. Ever since we saw, you know, 22% loss in the markets last year, I've been beating the table for almost a year about there has to be some sort of reset and repricing. Bill Noble last week in an episode talked about everything needs to be repriced. Everything needs to be put on sale for us to get back to some sort of normalcy. And then when most of these people have debt, and now we have inflation, and now the interest rates are going up, the debt is just going to become this big, huge snowball towards hell. And then we're even going to have this much bigger, wider, deeper wealth gap. And the only thing that separates the rich from the not so rich is knowledge, which leads to education, which leads to opportunities. Just a simple cash flow statement. And I hate to call it a budget, but just a simple cash flow statement so people can see like what money comes in and where it goes out. That's powerful to people, because then they can actually, you know, see what is going on, and then they can feel like where that money is going. And it also, when people can see what's going on, they can actually change their behaviors, because if they see what's going on and they don't like it, then they're more apt to change their behavior.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, yeah, people don't like the term budget, like they don't like the term diet. And it's a very similar situation, right? It's like, okay, I don't want to have, yeah, it's the restriction. It's like, I can't have what I want. And it's simply a matter of, like you said, it's the empowering piece of, okay, if I know what's coming in and I know what's going out, I now have I'm in control of my money. My money's not controlling me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really powerful place to come from. And I'll equate that again to a diet. It's like, okay, I'm not going to sit there and put my food on a scale and weigh it. You couldn't pay me to weigh my food every day. I mean, there's just no way. That's not a life you can watch. And I'm not going to tell you to watch every penny that's going out, but I'm going to have you be mindful of what you are spending. And I'm going to have you mindful of what you're putting in your mouth. You want a healthy body, you want a healthy lifestyle, you've got to be mindful of what goes in your mouth, right? And how you exercise. Now that's just being holistically healthy. Okay, that's not weighing your meat every day, right? So for it to be sustainable, I think we have to come at it like, okay, you are controlling your money by watching where it's coming and going. And this way it's not controlling you and you feel like you're underwater and then, hell breaks loose.
What is the most, what's the video in your course that resonates the most with people, with your students?
Well, there's so many. So I have 9 modules, and each module has 3 videos. So there's 27 videos total. Okay. I personally, I'll tell you what my favorite is. One of my modules is all about the mindset and understanding your money story and the behavioral side behind it and your relationship with money and how the subconscious plays a part. And that's 95% of our reality is in our subconscious, and how things are happening with our money that we aren't even recognizing are happening. I can teach the mechanics of money, right? I can teach the simple, here's what a mutual fund is, this is how you look at an expense ratio, this is how you look at the fees, this is how you look at, going on to Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, wherever you're going, this is how you analyze, you look at the history, blah, all that's super easy. I can explain the mechanics of money. But if they don't have that money story in place, understand that relationship with their money and how their subconscious is playing a part in that, they will constantly be struggling. And this is why you see lotto winners, they come into millions and a year later they're what? They're broke, right? Or athletes or actors, they're these people who have, millions of dollars at their fingertips, and yet there's, sometimes, not always, obviously it's not a blanket statement, but you think, gosh, I make $10 million on a film. Okay, that's pretty good. If I'm smart with my money, I could set myself up nicely for life, right?
Yeah.
But a few years later, they've blown through it all. And a lot of that is that obviously mismanagement, but a lot of that has to do with their money story and that relationship that they have with money.
Well, and the last guest that I had earlier this morning, we talked about, the alignment of the energy and the vibration that you have with money in general.
Exactly. It's all tied in. Yeah.
So when money comes in and then it quickly disappears, the rate that you're vibrating is different than the rate that the money's vibrating. And, you've got to find, some semblance of balance between those two things. Some people listening to this or watching this like, oh, here we go again. Brandi Jo and the woo-woo. I'm sorry. The woo-woo is real.
The woo-woo is real and it's scientifically proven. Yes. I mean, there is science behind it. That is not woo-woo. And those that get it, that's a big part of what separates those that manage well and those that don't.
Right. And the woo-woo, what I equate to the woo-woo is the energy that we put out. And there's attraction energy and then there's repulsion energy. And I remember, I want to say I was a teenager. I don't think I was driving yet because that's why I'm watching Oprah in the afternoon. And I remember watching Oprah, and she had a scientist on that was a non-believer. And he wanted to do some experiment because, people will shut themselves off from information, and you can go back to scripture on this. When they shut themselves off to information, usually that information is what they really need to hear. And so he's sitting on, Oprah's stage, and he's talking about how, prayer was coming at me. These Christian people were coming at me, and I was just totally repulsed and totally put off by these people. And then it just kept happening and kept happening and kept happening. And he says, so finally, I was going to prove them wrong, that prayer does not help heal people. And so he put these different illnesses or diseases in these different petri dishes, and he invited a local church to come in and pray over a certain petri dish, and they would pick one and they would go pray over it. And then the petri dishes that the same, so it was 2 and 2. This one was prayed on, this one wasn't. It was just on the shelf or in the lab. The ones that were prayed upon healed.
I love it.
And he said, I had to believe it.
I love it. That's
So,
fantastic.
he becomes, born again, and that right there, that's proof. And then have you seen the crystallized water petri dishes? So
I've seen a video that was
yeah, I'll find the guy's name, but he
Dr. You do or something?
he was,
Yeah.
it sounded Asian to me, like Japanese or
Yeah.
Chinese or something.
Yeah.
He flash freezes the water in the petri dish, but on the outside of the petri dish, he writes love, he writes hate, he writes beautiful, he writes ugly. And there's several of them. And the ones that had good words, positive words on the outside of the petri dish, they were these beautiful crystallized snowflake patterns. It was an unbelievable display of what happens to water. And then on the bad words, there were these ugly, just, not organized. Just having the word there, not said, just written. That's real. And so, and here's another example. Obviously, I'm a big social person. I will be somewhere or walk into a room, or somebody will approach me, or I'll get introduced to somebody, and instantly I will have, okay, this is a person that is, for lack of a better word, good. I don't feel anything off.
You can tell, the intuition,
Yeah. And there have been several times in my life where I'll tell Claudia, I was like, there's something about that one. And then, a couple years, 10 years later, you find out what that is. And it's an energy thing. And when you block yourself off from not accepting that energy, or allowing that outside force, universe, woo woo, whatever you want to call it, not listening to that, that's where you can get off track and you can misalign yourself.
I'm 100% on board with that. I'm a big believer of that. We aren't doing this life alone. We are co-creators, and if we work hard and grind and hard and just push through without any of you went dark for a while there.
Well, I've got this beautiful bay window, and I think a thunderstorm is about to hit. So
you were like gone.
Really
but
dark outside right now. I'm getting the lightning notifications on my phone.
Oh dear, where are you from? Where are you located?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm originally from Kilgore, Texas, East Texas.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. So anyways, the reality that we are co-creating, that isn't just our grinding and hard work that gets us to where we are, that we are, this is where there's a higher power. You want to call it God, universe, angels, whatever resonates with you. For me personally, it's God. I know that I'm being guided by God, and that we're co-creating this together. And so whatever you resonate with, just know that there is a higher power that is there for you, if you can open your heart and mind to that. It's not about just
do you ever run into people that people that join your coaching classes, and they're officially your student, when you speak with them, and this is for your one-on-one students, when you speak to them and then you're asking them questions, and then the response that you get back is completely misaligned with what they've set in their goals, or their deepest driving desire about money, do you find that they ask why a lot? Like I get that sometimes. It's like, why am I not making the money I should be making? And it's like, well, there's a reason. Do do you have that interaction with some of your students?
Yeah, again, because this program is relatively new, I don't, I'll speak from clients that I've worked with in the past in that question. So I haven't gotten the question of why. I've had a lot of, and again, and I have to be careful with this. There's a lot of victim mentality.
Yeah.
And, why me? And again, this was a very vulnerable, very difficult time in life. If it's fresh out of a divorce or newly divorced, there's a lot of emotional triggers with that. I think that once people get through and they get to the other side of that, and they can look back and they go that, and I can personally speak to that myself. I am who I am today because of what I went through. I am absolutely I feel like that made me a smarter person, a more compassionate person. I mean, I was always compassionate and caring, but I have a deeper understanding now of the pain that goes along with a divorce or losing somebody.
Yeah.
Going through life on your own and having this being afraid, and just the vast emotions that go through that. So what I try to do is I try to turn that around with things that bring them confidence, which brings them empowerment, which brings them and takes them away from giving that ex-spouse the power over their life. And I've seen this, unfortunately, too many times where they're living in this, well, why is he going off and being happily married? He doesn't deserve that. Why is he happy and I'm still miserable? And they're giving him the power. They're giving him, leave that. That's not helping you at all. That's not, putting you in a better place.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of coaching, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this at the beginning. I feel like I did, but maybe I didn't. A lot of financial planning firms are hiring life coaches and bringing them into the firms to help work with this situation, because there's so much that a coach can do that a financial advisor cannot.
Right.
And this is kind of what that's why I'm actually teaming up with a select number of financial advisors with my program. I'm coming in, and it's a complimentary service, and it's a great way for them to add a value add to their menu of services. And the advisor pays for it for the individual. Okay. And it's like, wow, thank you. This is so it just makes for a better relationship with the advisor at the end of the day.
It really does, because you want it needs to be a two-way street, and you want to be able to communicate on the level of your client. You don't want to talk over them. You want to support them, and you always want to be educating them. Let's talk about like one thing that you would advise, or I shouldn't say advise, one thing that you would coach somebody on that is contemplating divorce, that they've tried everything, they wanted to fix their marriage, they can't fix it, and from the lady's point of view and their perspective, it's like, okay, now I need to take the next step, and now I need to get educated and organized about my money. What is the first thing that you would have them do?
Well, there's probably two things that are level as far as what to do. One is, as best as possible, try to keep the emotions, especially if there's kids involved, keep the emotions out of the conversations with the ex-spouse, because that's going to drive attorney's fees up. That's going to drive the anger up. That's going to drive ugliness up. The kids are going to watch this and witness it. They're going to be, hurt and impacted by that. So as much as I know this is a big ask, but as much as you possibly can, look at this as a business transaction and not the end of a loving relationship, because that's a very tough place to come from. The other piece of advice or suggestions that I would say is to make sure that you have everything documented, have every statement, gather every bank account, every investment account, every credit card statement, every asset, every liability, every expense, have a very good understanding of what's happening in your world financially, so that you again come from the place of empowerment. And I'll use the analogy of going on a trip. If you're going on a vacation across country, you need to know where you're starting from, right? You got to put in the GPS, I'm starting from here, San Antonio, Texas, and I want to go to New York. Well, if I say I'm going to New York, but I don't know where I'm starting, well, okay, well, how do I know where to go if I don't know where I'm starting, right? So having those assets, having everything known, that's kind of like your starting point. You need to know what's happening in your world. Plus, you also will have a better understanding of what you'll end up with at the end of the divorce.
Right. That's interesting. Most in my experience, most people are looking at their money as a constant and a fixed asset. They don't see the money growing, and they covet the money, and they get anxiety attachment to that money. And there's when you're in that kind of a relationship with your money, whatever you have or whatever you've split from the divorce with, that is no way to actually manage the money. You have to let go and let that money grow somehow.
Absolutely.
I've seen, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You've got to let it go, because it wants to grow. It wants to flow. And, money loves, well, structure, protection, and appreciation. And if you can get those three things down as soon as possible in your cash flow, your income making, and then allowing that money to just circulate throughout your personal economy, you'll manifest so much more. And you won't manifest more money per se, but you'll manifest wealth in the form of experiences and opportunities. And
yeah,
I think that's the greatest thing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier about the mindset and the relationship with money. Mm-hmm. And I talk about this in depth in my course, but I'll just give you a high level. And you might have seen this before. Imagine a picture of an iceberg. Okay, what you see on top of the water is a very, very small piece of the iceberg underneath, which is this monumental, massive, piece of ice. The underneath the water is our subconscious. The top of the water is our conscious. And if we identify, if our subconscious identifies with being broke or being, scarce mentality, that's what we will continue to attract. And that's why the law of attraction works so well. It isn't about sitting on your couch and going, I am rich, I am wealthy, I am this, I am that. It's about what you identify with. And I'll use another kind of silly analogy. If you are a smoker, you identify as a smoker. If you are a non-smoker, you identify as a non-smoker, right? So if you identify as being, oh my gosh, my money, I need to hold on to it. I need to be, it's going to go away. I need to hoard it. It's scary. I'm going to lose it. Guess what? You're going to have that mentality, and that's what you're going to attract. You will constantly be in that place. So that's, again, tying into the energy of money that we spoke of earlier. So being mindful of your identity, and being mindful of what your what you heard as a kid, and that's a whole other episode. We can talk about that. But yeah, it is. I 100% agree with what you said. Is that piece of money wants to grow, money wants to work for you.
So I'm on your website right now on your landing page. So when you're going to give away a free video, is that right?
So if you go to mindinghermoney.com, that will allow you to download. There's a badass investing roadmap. That's one of the roadmaps that we use.
I like that.
Badass investing, yeah. And then you also get, which you don't see on the site, the actual roadmap for the entire course. And that basically is the 9 modules that we talk about. And those are the 9 areas that you need to really, really have a handle on in terms of just going through life as, a sole person. And then there's a short training, and then an opportunity to book a call with me. And again, that's just for us to, have a conversation. We do it by Zoom, and I share the program. I learn more about their situation, and we determine if it's a fit.
Yeah. So that discovery call is, getting a connection, but also getting the person organized, right?
Yeah, it's basically getting an understanding of where they're at, where their struggles are, where their pain points are, and if I can guide them in some ways, I will for sure. And then we can determine if what I offer in the program can fit the rest of their issues. Usually, there's not one issue that someone comes to me with; it's a multitude of things that's going on in their life. And so that's the overall program itself, the overall Minding Her Money program.
I love it. Well, I know we had a little bit of a late start, but I want to thank you for joining me today. And
thank you, Brandi Jo.
This is, we're making a ripple effect, and hopefully we're helping as many people as possible. And keep in mind, and I said this in my last interview this morning, keep in mind that we never know how many people that we're actually helping, because for every one person that either likes or shares or comes up to you in the grocery store and tells you that you're doing a great job, there's thousands others that are connecting with the content and resonating with the content. So I'm just happy that you've put yourself out here, and that you're helping, a certain group of ladies that can empower themselves.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that ripple effect is a beautiful thing. I love that. And what was it, Oprah, that said, the legacy we leave is every life that we touch. And
right.
That is, that just makes my heart sing. So
love it. All right, Patti. Well, you have a great week. Happy Monday. And I think we've got a good start here.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Brandi Jo Show. You can find out more on her website, brandijonewman.com.